Well, I think we can start the last day of LTTA of CRIMS project. Again, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's sessions. Yesterday, we had some fruitful discussions. We first discussed how we can interlink CRIMS repository with other online platforms like RC and how we can use it to disseminate in a more enhanced way our training material. Then we took a deep look inside the technology stack of CRIMS platform. And at the end, as a conclusion, we had a webinar where all the developed tools were presented by Senkar and the developer partners, Cognix UX and Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Today, we have some training activities, discussions, but first of all, we will start with an invited talk, which will be given by the senior researcher of NTNU, Mrs. Ingrid Hegland, who is going to talk to us about open science approach. Mrs. Hegland has been leading and implementing digitization projects, and she's very familiar with NTNU policy for open science and ethical approach towards research data. Mrs. Hegland, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I'm very happy to have been invited here to your webinar workshop. So I don't know a lot about the CRIMS project, but I had a look at your webpage and it sounds like you've had some very interesting discussions. So I would like to add maybe a viewpoint. I don't know if you've discussed this already or if this is a topic you know about. Open science, is this a topic you've talked about at all, or is it familiar at all?
Well, we are familiar, but we're waiting from you to see your approach.
Yeah, lovely. So if you at any point have questions or comments, you can feel free to shout out or add them in the chat. But this is kind of from my perspective, working with open science and support services and digital tools from the context of the university library. But I do have a background as a researcher and thinking about how these aspects might be related to your thinking or your practices, if maybe this is relevant. So this is coming from the overarching policy and a concept that is very important also internationally and in EU, open science. And I just really want to point out that we say open science, but it's maybe not the perfect term. Maybe it should be open scholarship or open education or open practices in general. So just be aware when I talk about open science, it's a very inclusive term. So it's not just about the hard sciences, just to be clear. But what is open science and why do we talk about it? So some talk about open science as thinking about outputs, like things you do in research and education, and you have an output and you want to make the output open. But I really want to encourage thinking about the process, how you do your research and education. All that should be transparent and open, and thinking about how you can be more inclusive and sharing in the process itself. That's kind of some of the background on thinking about open science. I also want to emphasize that open science can be a lot of very different things, really depending on your practice and context and where you are and what you're doing. Here are just some examples, what we include when we talk about open science, and these are not exhaustive in any way. But it's an umbrella term covering many practices and maybe the common denominator is thinking about how you can use technology to allow more information to be shared with more people. That's kind of a overarching goal. So it's in some ways a critique of how we have been doing some things in the context of research and science and in education, but it's also a continuation of the best practices we already have. So just to even show even further that open science can be so many different things, is from the output to thinking about the networks you're working within, the collaborations within your projects or activities, how you evaluate science and output, and so on. So it's a really ecosystem of different ways of thinking about practice and output and how you actually do things in higher education, in research, in science. There are strict requirements in some contexts and also some big, hairy goals in other contexts. So the term open science and open research and open practice has been really emphasized. For example, in Horizon Europe, we have initiatives like European Open Science Cloud trying to make things more open, more transparent, more interoperable. And also in Norway, for example, our research council, they really want to pave the way and thinking about openness and transparency and how can we make more impact with our resources and results and our processes and practices. So this is an example how the Norwegian Research Council frames this. So it's a practice which both the process and the results are made openly accessible. And it's not just making it open without thinking about it. It's also thinking about quality, knowledge development, and how you share and utilize the output and the knowledge and the results that you actually develop. So this is kind of the backdrop, and at NTNU, at our university, we are also thinking, how can we do this in practice? So we have overarching a policy for open science, stating what are our goals, our aims, overarching long-term. We also have some more practical guidelines for more specific things, how do you do things in practice? And we also have a development plan thinking about how can we actually make this happen in practice? And I will talk a little bit about all of these aspects. So you might ask, why do we think about and talk about open science or open scholarship in general? There are some big goals and general aims. Here are some examples. We think that talking about and doing open science might increase quality and integrity in research and science and education, making things more transparent and you can actually judge quality and practice. We think it might increase efficiency and economic benefits. So you think about reuse and employing things in different ways without doing all the work again. We also think there might be global benefits. Maybe we can increase innovation by being open, transparent, and sharing. And maybe one of the more important things, I think, is also the public disclosure and engagement, that you try to increase trust, you try to increase how things are actually utilized and how you impact society in your activities. So to sum up our policy at NTNU, as a general rule, all results from our research and teaching and other activities at NTNU should be made public available when practically and legally possible. I'll come back to some of these caveats because it's not an either or. It's a process and it's a consciousness about what you're doing and why you're doing it and how this can be actually disseminated, reused, and so on. And I really just want to emphasize when we talk about open science, as I said, it's a very inclusive term. It's a set of principles thinking about openness, transparency, both in the research process, but also, of course, in education, teaching, and so on. So our policy at NTNU, it includes all activities from research, artistic research, teaching, dissemination of scientific and artistic work. So here's just a list with some examples of the outputs that we include when we talk about open science and open science practices. And I just highlighted, for example, results of artistic research or art production at our university is included. We want that to be disseminated, to be shared, to be public, if possible. Just some examples from our development plan. What are we trying to do? Well, we want, for example, we want our academic staff and our students to be aware of what is open science, what are practices, how can you make your output or your process more open and transparent. We also want open science to be an aspect that we are actually including when we are assessing activities at the university, or you as a researcher or supervisor or so on. So that is kind of an integrated part about how we think about what we do as a university. And also important part, we should have user-friendly and efficient infrastructure. So it's actually easy and practical to do this in practice with your output and your processes. So to sum up some of the core values when we're talking about open science or open scholarship, we want research and science and education to be a collaborative experience, something we do together. You build on research and results from others, or you use others' outputs and knowledge. We talk about dissemination. This should be shared and it should be as open as possible. We want to be transparent about how we do our teaching and education and research and science. And hopefully also things should be reproducible. It should be possible to understand and reproduce what we are doing and how we do things. So we are talking about open and free sharing of knowledge in a digital world. The digital part is kind of important because that's generally how we actually share and make output available these days. Of course, not exclusively, but it's a very important part of it. But we also really want to emphasize that this should be done in a very responsible, reproducible, and accessible way. And we always talk about as open as possible and as closed as necessary. And this term, as open as possible, as close as necessary, means you really have to be conscious about what are you doing, what is your process, what is your output. Are there any barriers, ethical, legal, practical reasons not to share? Or on the other hand, maybe there are some ethical, legal, and practical reasons that you should share. Thinking about what you have and who should be able to access this, and maybe at what point in time. It's really important part of doing open science and doing working at a university or being a student. And these considerations should really be specific to what is your activity, what is your context, who are you including in the process, what is your output, and so on. So it's really thinking about what's special for your type of activity and your type of output. Just to give a couple of examples of things that are important in this consideration, we really emphasize research ethics when you're doing research as a part of the process. That should be something you think about in your daily life. So research ethics or thinking about ethical aspects of your practice isn't something you do as a checklist. It's something you think about, at least in the back of your mind, all throughout what you're doing. Some important aspects are in research specifically, the quest for truth. You should try to be honest, open, and systematic to really be able to trust what you are figuring out. But other aspects are related to making results available. That's also part of your ethical requirements. You should be actually be able to say, this is what I figured out. This is what my results are. On the other hand, some things should be kept confidential. If you are working with participants, with people, and they are, for example, providing you with input or you're interviewing them, this should be kept confidential. So you always have to balance this. What can I share? What shouldn't I share? How do I take care of people participating in my research or in my art or whatever it is you are working with? An example, you want to share things, but some things should not be shared, or you have to change your format or think about how you can share it. If you are including people in your research and your project, this should not be shared without really considering what could be open and so on. Other issues could be trade secrets, or maybe you have to think about copyright. I'll say a few more words about that, but also maybe you have plans later in the future that might prevent you from sharing things at this point in time. When thinking about open science or sharing and publishing, copyright and intellectual property rights is an important aspect to think about so that you know what are practical and legal aspects related to what you can share and how you can share it and publish it. So an important aspect at NTNU is that although we want everything to be as open as possible, we also say that you as a researcher and as a student and an employee, you have rights and you can decide what your output, how that should be shared, at least to a certain extent. So thinking about how do you disseminate your art or your output or your publications is a really important part of your role as a student, as a part of a project, or as a researcher. But also being aware of restrictions. If you, for example, collaborate with others, you have to decide as a collective, how do we actually disseminate or how do we publish this or make this publicly available, so on. So these are really important aspects. So when we're talking about open science, it's not just openness, it's thinking about what can be open and how can it be open and what are the restrictions about how we can do this work. So I just wanted to give a few examples of open science in practice, some specific tools or outputs. And we really try to think about what tools, infrastructure, and solutions are needed at our university and in different types of activities and different types of outputs. And I understand that you in the CREAMS project, you really have utilized a specific tool or developed a specific tool that is very well suited for a specific context. And that's also a very interesting example. But here are some other examples. So one of the things that is very important for university is the output of publications, so papers. This aspect of open science we call open access, making sure that our output from research and education is actually available for everyone to read and actually understand and access the knowledge. So open access is in practice the difference between the left-hand side. If you go to a journal online, you can actually access all the papers and read all the knowledge and output, versus the right-hand side where you actually have to pay to read papers or journals. And our goal at NTNU is that we should be the left-hand side, that all our output should be available to the world to actually read and access. And why do we talk about open access specifically? Well, we think that publicly funded research should actually be available to the public. In addition, there are other practical advantages. We think that things are read more exposure for work, you are cited more as a researcher, but also parts of your output and knowledge can actually be utilized quicker if it's easy to read. Obvious reasons. Other aspects of open science include the open data part or other types of output from a project or from activity. I noted that you wanted to make your platform or your software available open source. That's also a very, very good example of making output available for others. When we are talking about open data specifically, we often also talk about a related concept, which is FAIR. That's related to making the data, in addition to open, it should also be possible to understand and reuse, and it's described in a way and organized in a way that is sensible. So we really emphasize that FAIR is also a useful concept. And just some examples. So how do you do FAIR in practice? How do you make your results or output or data understandable? Well, you think about how you document it. You have good metadata describing how is it organized. Ideally, you have a persistent identifier so that it doesn't disappear online. You can actually search for it and always find that specific output. You think about file formats so it's possible for others to actually open and access it in practice. And you make it accessible, either with restrictions or maybe openly for everyone. When talking about data, we are also quite agnostic to what is actually data. So data can be a lot of things depending on your type of activity or project or output. So this is just an example. When we've discussed it in the context of artistic research, we are really thinking very widely, what could data or what could interesting documentation be? So it could be a lot of different things depending on what you're doing. And I just want to give some examples of different types of ways of sharing various types of data. So when we talk about data in the context of research or projects at the university, we really emphasize or try to encourage researchers and projects to share things in suitable repositories. And the repository, they make sure that data is taken care of and that it's organized in a sensible way for that context or that type of data. So these repositories, they might be discipline specific, like it could be, for example, genomic data, or it could be photos, or it could be generic or institutional, take any type of data in any type of context. So we really encourage thinking about what would be most useful for a specific context, whether you are reusing things that you find or you are sharing something that you have actually produced. And some specific examples, we have a repository at our institution. We take all types of research and data that people want to be shared. There are more specific repositories. For example, there's one for biodiversity data. There are some for qualitative data that cannot be shared openly, and so on. Here's an example. Many of you might have heard of Zenodo. It's a very nice platform for sharing all types of research output. So we often encourage researchers and projects to use Zenodo if that's suitable. More specific and tailored repositories. Here's an example from my field of research, brain science, neuroscience, where they have specifically organized data related to neuroscience and brain atlases and so on, making it even more tailored to both use and reuse in a specific context or a specific discipline. Another example, biodiversity data, and this platform looks very different because the data is very different. Here you can get information or data about different species or different occurrences of plants or animals all across the world. So it's a very nice way of showing that data is very different depending on what you are doing with it and what type of data it is. And another very different example, a type of data that cannot be shared fully open, but still can be shared, but with some restrictions. This is from a project that looked at Norwegian Sign Language, so people signing. And a really important part of being included in that project was that data should be shared after the project so that others, especially in the deaf community, could access and see the actual sign language and how they were talking. And here, actually, the ethical imperative was that the participants themselves said, well, if I want to participate in this, it's under the condition that things should be shared so the rest of our deaf signing community can actually benefit from my participation in this project. So this, I think, is a very nice example of ethical considerations that can be towards sharing and not precluding sharing. And just a random example about showing how many different repositories we have. This is an example of a repository for art and images, open and free to use, and you can both contribute and you can use and reuse things from the repository. And in addition to the specific repositories for specific types of output and data or resources, there are also platforms encouraging thinking about openness throughout the process. So this is OSF, Open Science Foundation, where you can do your projects on a platform that really encourages collaboration and sharing and publishing output as you go along throughout your project. So thinking about how you do open science as a process is really what this platform is trying to encourage. And some research projects, they go all out and say, our whole process and our whole project is open and anyone can come and join. Open Source Malaria is an example of this. They are saying, are you interested in joining? Just jump in. And they are really open about how they do things, their methods, their practices. And they actually have an open and, I would say, dynamic project plan because people can jump in and join where they think they can contribute. So this is a very exciting way of thinking about open science in practice. And just to round off, I think I understand that you already have talked about Research Catalog, but this is my final example of a tailored and specific type of tool for a specific type of activity or output or discipline. And we really hope that the uptake at NTNU will increase because we think it's tailored to some types of activity that really would benefit from using this type of platform. So I won't go into detail because I understand you've talked about it, but I really think it's a very nice way of showing different aspects of the output from artistic and artistic research activity that have different needs or different aspects than maybe the standard scientific data, for example. So we are really hoping that more and more of our researchers and our art producers at the university will start using Research Catalog as a tool. So we are a partner in Research Catalog, and we are really trying to emphasize that we can use this in different ways, in whether it's students or it's PhDs or researchers or other types of activities. It can be used however they see more or less fit. And we really want to emphasize that art at our university is a very important part of our activities and our output. Yeah, I think I'll just finish there and open the floor for discussion or questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ingrid. Are there any questions for Mrs. Hegland? Well, I have a question. First of all, thank you for your fantastic presentation. You analyzed the issue of open science and why we should take into account its principles when we build platforms or develop digitized artworks and so on. My question is about what we should do in order to fulfill the objectives of open science when we deal with an educational platform like CRIMS. What is your feeling?
So I don't know the details about your educational platform, but from my first impression, it seems like you in practice are doing open science, maybe not using those words, because you are thinking about dissemination, right? You're thinking about how to show things to the world and how to, it seems like a very interactive and including process as far as I've seen. And I understand that you're also sharing the actual source code, open source, which is also a very good practice. So I think it seems like you have the same ideas and values, and you just don't put the label open science on it, to be honest. I don't know if you would agree.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I agree, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
May?
Yeah, of course, Marius.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ingrid, for the very nice presentation. Very interesting and a lot of information shared. With regards to the Dimitri's comment, I would like to ask as well, based on your experience in research projects, we have built the technology, various technologies, and we were thinking, yes, the plan is to release the code or provide it open source. We have a GitHub repository. Based on your experience, have you seen any specific licenses that are more popular in this context? We are thinking about GPL3, the GNU, the General Public License 3, but based on your experience, have you seen anything else that is more popular?
Yeah, so it kind of depends both on the context and what you would like to, if you have any considerations about consequences for later. So I think the GPL is it's a good starting point, and the software license varieties are a bit harder to navigate than for publications, for example. So it really depends if you think you have any. Do you have any stakes in the future? You want to limit things for some reason? Do you think someone might take it and commercialize it and you want to prevent it? That's something you could consider. Or do you want to be it as open as possible and you want people to build on it or not? So these are the main considerations. So the GLP3, if I remember, it's slightly viral. So you kind of slightly restrict whether people can close off if they build on it later. So these are kind of the main considerations. So I know there's a license chooser for software licenses. Have you had a look at that, and you can choose different aspects?
I'm not aware about that.
No, I can go back and have a look, but the GLP3 is a good starting point. For academic projects, I usually recommend the MIT license. But as this is a full, as I understand, a full software, it's maybe good to have some restrictions or some virality so that people building on it also have to keep it open. If that's something, yeah. So I think that's a good starting point. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ingrid? Well, then, thank you very much, Ingrid, for your interesting presentation. Now we have our coffee break and we will come back at 11:15, I think. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Have been implemented. We have also a course and training material produced as part of the relevant project results. These are also available. in the knowledge repository. We have a CRIMS Moodle, CRIMS community forum that has been produced and is managed by our partners from Shankar, and the whole software code of all the technologies will be available open source. We have a GitHub repository for that. So all this information, everything is accessible through the website. So anyone who would like to access the latest information right now, and we will further update that in the next days. Upon the completion of the project, everything will be available there. So it's the main access point, crims-project.eu. You can access it right now, and everything has been organized in such a way to give access to all the relevant information. So, for example, we have a section, dedicated section, knowledge repository, where you can see, where you can access, for example, the technology demonstrators, videos that have been produced, have been edited, and are available in CRIM's YouTube channel, and also accessible through this specific section. As I mentioned, we will further update this with the latest demonstrations of the latest technologies. We have course and training material, which includes best practice guides, the course material that has been translated in various languages, English, Greek, Hebrew, Norwegian, German, and all this is accessible through this section. We have also another section, the events and activities. So throughout the project, we have organized several multiplier events, learning, teaching, training events, webinars. And in each of these events, we have our partners and invited speakers have given talks. New knowledge has been produced, which is also available through this dedicated section. Again, accessible through the events and activities. In total, we had 3 learning, teaching, training activities. We had 2 multiplier plus 1, which will occur on this Friday, the final one, 3 multiplier events in total, and 6 webinars. All this has produced knowledge through these events. We have produced knowledge, which is also available. The recordings are available, and other material is available through this section. The technology demonstrators, as I mentioned, you can see a quick demo on the main tools, technologies that have been implemented. With regards to the course and training material, as I mentioned, we have best practices guide, course material, specific course material relevant to topics of the project, user manuals for each of the technologies. So we have a user manual for the web content, the artist-centered content management system, the virtual reality editor and viewer, which has been translated in different languages. We have user manuals for the augmented reality outdoor application, as well as the indoor and in-home application, digitizer application, step-by-step guide on how someone can use these technologies. We have also video tutorials for each of the components, again, for the main platform, the VR editor, the AR app, and the digitizer app. Now, some further details on the best practices guide, which is also available through the website. Anyone who's interested can have a look at this. The purpose of the best practice guide is to provide best practices for planning and executing successfully virtual exhibitions. And this includes how various tips and advice on how to define goals within this context, choosing the right platform, how to design a user-friendly interface, providing how we can provide engaging content, offer networking opportunities, promoting exhibitions, and providing post-event resources. And we also have a course material study guide for a course on virtual reality, including the aims, the learning objectives, teaching methods, ways of learning, the main content of how someone can set up and use this course, the material of this course, to teach it at a university level. These are some snapshots of the user manuals, as you can see. This is a step-by-step guide on how someone can access the application and proceed through the main stages of signing up, registering, verifying your email, and proceeding to using the various components of the technologies. Snapshot of the Moodle, CRIMS Moodle, which is managed and hosted by our partners from Shankar. This is something that Rebecca has shown in the previous days, which also includes information, learning and educational material produced by CRIMS. And we also have a CRIMS community forum accessible through our website, but this is also hosted and managed by our partners from Shankar. And finally, we have we follow an open source policy throughout the project for the material that has been produced, but as well for the software source code. So we have a dedicated GitHub repository available for free for the public to be downloaded for anyone who would like to use this technology, but also further enhance it, further improve it. Yes, and so I will conclude with this. Anyone who is interested can access all this material through the website, crims-project.eu.
Thank you, Marios. Are there any questions for Dr. Pelk concerning the CRIMS knowledge repository? Well, I'd like to mention here that this is an Erasmus Plus project, so the actual outcome is a course. The course means a laboratory, all these tools we have developed, and of course, course material and training material. So our knowledge repository is a crucial, let's say, component of this project, and not just something complementary. So we'd like to have comments from all of you if you think that we can do something more in order to have a better experience when we use all this material. Yes. Are there any other questions? Okay, then maybe we can continue with our agenda, Marie. The next topic concerns training activities. Cognitive UX leads this topic too. So the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Dimitris. I would suggest the following, if everyone agrees. I will make a quick demonstration of the platform and the virtual reality component. And since this is also available online, anyone who is interested, the audience that is currently here, I think it's good to, on your own, to create an account and experiment with the technology. So I can guide you to do that, and we will be here available for any questions, any feedback to discuss while you will be using the technology. Does this sound good?
Yes, great, Mario. I think this is the best. Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you, let me share my browser, and I will guide you to create your own account, and I will guide you while you create the account, select a specific organization so that you will be under my organization so that we can play the role of instructor student. I will be the instructor, you will be the students as part of a virtual reality exhibition creation. So you can all go to CRIMS-project in POC 3, the section proof of concept 3, basically. From here, you can access all the latest technologies, the artist-centered content management system, the virtual reality editor and viewer, which is basically included in the content management system because they are both web technologies. So I will be focusing on these main two components right now because they are web-based and you can also access them very easily. Anyone who is interested to also test the other applications, like the augmented reality application, please download the link, the .apk file on your Android phone. This is an Android application, and you can test this as well right now and ask any questions, give us any feedback. The same goes for the 2D digitizer, which is also an Android app. You can download the .apk file, install it. And the last component is a bit more difficult in the sense that to install, in the sense that someone needs to have a Microsoft HoloLens device. But in case anyone has a Microsoft HoloLens device, this is a full application code. It's about 1 GB. You can download it. You need Unity to install it, and you can install it on your device. But for now, I would suggest we start with the platform. Once you build your account in the platform, you can also use the other Android application. So from here, we access the main platform. I already have 2 accounts. I'm already an instructor, but what I would like ask you to do, anyone who is interested to participate in this demonstration, you can sign up for a new account. So here, new user, sign up for an account, get into the role of a student for now, because we will play the role of instructor student. And please make sure that you select CUX, Cognitive UX, basically organization. The reason is that because I'm an instructor under the Cognitive UX organization and you will be my students, you need to be under my organization so that I can see you and assign you to the exhibitions. So please proceed doing that. Email, password, first name, last name, student role. The class, this was for evaluation purposes. You can keep the default one and just make sure that in organization, enter the value CUX, Cognitive UX. Okay, once you do this, the other window, I will log in to my instructor account. So this is the main dashboard and instructor views. Basically, in the main dashboard, I have 3 different types of exhibitions: the virtual reality exhibition, the augmented reality exhibition section, and the mixed reality exhibitions. And the purpose here is to see in a quick view the main exhibitions that are currently active or past exhibitions. And it's an access point to manage the information of the exhibitions and the assigned students. In case I would like to initiate a new VR exhibition, I click on the Initiate VR. Let me do that right now. VR for LTTA3. I will upload a thumbnail. So I can, let me add a blank thumbnail here. Starting date today and ending on the 31st. Description. And we can also add terms which can be further used for visualization purposes. It is a multi-value dropdown. The instructor can add tags, relevant tags, by following the R terms that were inspired by the Tate R terms. So let's keep it like that. And in case you would also like to add spatial context terms, we can add these terms. Okay. Saving. I've created now an exhibition. And what we see here, these are some testing accounts that we already have. Once you create an account, a student account under Cognitive UX, you will be shown here. So for now, I can wait a bit for people to create an account. Once you create an account, I can assign you to this new exhibition. Let me add for now the 3 ones that we have here. Dimitris has an account. So I'm saving the data, and I can further update that once you do an account, I can further update that. And now I have created an exhibition. I have assigned my students. Now Dimitris, for example, who is a student in this context right now, can access the virtual reality exhibition. Let me let me wear the hat of a student right now, and let me sign out. And I will enter with my student account that has been assigned so that you can see the student view. Now, as you can see here, Dimitris, who has created an account, you will see the VR for LTTA3 in your dashboard. So I can see that as well because I'm another student I have been assigned to. So as you can see here, these are the available exhibitions in which students have been assigned to. These are some previous ones that we added in the LTTA2. And now we have the one I just added, LTTA3, January 29 to January 31. And here I can access the VR editor and the curatorial process. In the same sense, I can also be added to an augmented reality exhibition. This is a past one, and a mixed reality exhibition. But for now, we will focus on the virtual reality exhibition. So beyond the main exhibition editing tools, we also have other management tools in the context of a student account. For example, I can go to the Artworks Manager, in which the student can upload their 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional artworks. These have been split in this section: 2-dimensional artworks, 3-dimensional artworks. And I have already some artworks, but let me show you an example of the 3D. So 3-dimensional artworks, I'm adding a new 3D artwork, which consists of 2 main pages, 2 main steps, let's say. We give it a name, 3D art for LTTA3. I'm uploading first a thumbnail for the artwork. So this is not the actual artwork, but the thumbnail, which is used for listing purposes. And important here is to make sure that you select the right 3D data type. So currently the system supports 3 main 3D model types: GLB format, GLTF, and OBJ. In my case, I have already a model that was created by our partners from Cyprus University of Technology. It's in GLB format. It's a sculpture of Aphrodite. And I can further add some metadata information. Also, again, attach any semantics on that specific artwork for personalization purposes. So I completed the first step. Now the second step for the 3D model is that I need to associate all the relevant 3D related files, which can be a texture, binary file, the model, and so on. So what we see here, I have 3 files that were provided to me: the GLB file, the JPEG, which is the texture, and another texture used for the model. Uploading these files. And these are the files now. A record has been created for that 3D model with the metadata, the title, the other information, along with the associated material. Now, if I go back to the artworks, I have here the 3D artwork for LTTA. And for testing purposes, we have added a new feature in the latest version, a quick 3D viewer, basically. This is not for editing purposes, it's just to have a look at the result of the 3D sculpture that was uploaded, which is viewed in A-frame, but at this point, we just want to see the quality of the model that was uploaded. And this is the model that was provided to us. This was digitized by the Cyprus University of Technology, and it was provided to us, and I uploaded it in this in the platform. Okay, so let me go back. In the same sense, I can upload media, for example, videos. I can also access the communication tools, which is a classic chat tool between the instructor and the student. So we can open the chat and write runtime chat. And at the other end, this will be automatically updated to provide the communication between the various stakeholders. So let me go back to the exhibitions. And now in the given once I have uploaded and managed all my artworks, in the process of in an educational process, someone would start with a curatorial. So curatorial, I first need to select my artworks. So these are all the artworks from my manager, and in that stage I select basically the artworks that I would like to include in my exhibition. I'm saving the selection. Now at the other end, I will not go through all the steps. Basically, I can arrange artworks in groups. For example, create a group, create a new group, and assign this information, or add a second group. First group, second group here. Save the selection. And as I mentioned yesterday in my talk, in the first day of the event, the curatorial process serves as an interface between the instructor and the students to share information, provide feedback. The instructor can provide feedback about the selection, the grouping, the arrangements, the reasoning behind the selections, and so on. Okay, describe the arrangements, provide feedback. I will not go through this process. But the idea is to provide, describe and provide feedback between the students and the instructors. Now, but the important part is that I need to select the artworks. Why it's important? Because once I select artworks, these artworks will be available in the library of that specific exhibition. If I don't do that, this means that I will not have any artworks available for selection in my exhibition. Now I go to the VR editor. The first step, because it's I'm starting from scratch, I start with creating the space, the modular space of my exhibition, which is basically the interaction design we follow here is by clicking on a canvas, and I'm enabling, disabling rooms, 5x5 rooms. So basically a starting point is the green room, and I've created a T-shaped room for that purpose. And once I do that, I enter this room. This has been created runtime. I have a T-shaped room that I just created, and I can now use and create my exhibition. Do you have any questions so far? Has anyone created an account to assign it and to start testing it runtime with me? I can quickly check. Let me check if anyone else has.
Sorry, I have created an account and I follow the instructions.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Me too.
All right. Let me add you, Panagiotis. Let me assign you to the exhibition. Save this for now. For the add of the instructor. Edit students and co-advisors. Have you created an account under Cognitive UX, Panagiotis?
No.
That's why I cannot add you. But you have entered.
I have a student and
know the system very well. Okay. So basically, you're under Aristotle University. That's why I cannot see you here.
Both as a student and as a lecturer.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So you do it on your own. All right. Let me go back. VR editor. Now I'm back in my room as a student, and at the right side you can see all the set of tools available for updating and creating your virtual reality exhibition. Each tab represents a set of tools. For example, here we have the room related tools. For example, these are tools for changing the color of the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the ambient lighting color. So let me make some changes. Let's put warmer color. And let's keep the floor gray. Ambient lighting. Let's add some lighter colors. Let's see if you want to add other colors, extreme colors, you can do that. But let me add some lighting. And next, I can add my artworks. Now, we had several challenges in terms of interaction design in these regards, and that had to do with the process of assigning artworks to the exhibition. Because we had at the left side, we have this page is quite crowded, and from a user interface point of view, an HCI point of view, you have the component at the left side, which is interactive to move around. But you also have a set of tools at the right side, and there was a challenge in terms of designing this on how we can select and add on a specific position the artworks. How we solved that was as follows. Basically, everything is driven by walls. Once I am inside an artwork tab, I can select the wall in which I want the artwork to be hanged, let's say, and I assign, for example, this 2D on the wall, okay, for now. Similarly, I can add a 3D on the wall, which is added as it has been modeled, okay, as you can see here. The model, the 2D and 3D models have been assigned. And the next step someone would follow would be to go to the adjustments page. I go to the adjustments, and now I can select an object, either 2D or the 3D, which is also either accessible by clicking on the object itself or accessible through this drop-down list for easier access. So for example, I have the artwork, the 2D artwork here. I'm selecting it, and I can resize, rotate, and position the object, or even delete it. I can adjust this object. For example, given a specific resizing value, scaling value, I can scale up, scale down, position at the right, to the top, at the Z-axis. If you go here, you will see that I can move around, bring it to the front, to the back. This is quite helpful, especially for the 3D objects, because another challenge we had for the 3D objects relates to the fact that the files that have been uploaded were generated by a 3D modeling tool. So what you see here we see the sculpture in a specific size of Aphrodite with a specific rotation, and which it doesn't suit me very well. The default values here. But I do give, based on the adjustments that we have, we can scale it up, position it, bring it to the right, and rotate it. Let me increase the rotate left, and I can, oops, this is going back. Up, and I can position it as I wish. So as you can see here, this is the sculpture. I position it like that. Okay. Once I have done that, there are also other tools, similar tools for labels for videos. For example, I can add a label to this wall now. I'm selecting the label, LTTA3 example. I'm adding the label, it's being added, and I need to go again to the adjustments in which additional handling tools are available. I can change the text, but I can also position it. As you can see here, the label is behind the painting because the painting was previously moved towards the front. So I need to reposition both. Not this. And I can move it, center it as I wish. Maybe this would make sense to make it a bit smaller. Move it to the right. Move this to the right. Rotate to the left. Go a bit back. And I starting to arrange my wall. Now, another interesting addition that we added has to do with spotlights. So beyond the ambient lighting, you can also add spotlights. Again, this is wall driven. I'm selecting the wall, I'm adding a spotlight, and I can change the coloring of the spotlight, make it a bit warm, and change the intensity, the angle, and another nice thing, the penumbra, to make a nicer effect. And I can also move it up to create some additional effects in my room. Now, another nice thing is that we can save and download the exhibition for backup purposes. So what we have done here, so let me give you some information on the technology behind it. We have at the left side an A-frame component. This is based on A-frame open source framework. And the tools that we have built upon this framework, but we have built from scratch tools so that we can at runtime manipulate the objects within A-frame. So what happens here, all the actions that I've taken, room, artworks, adding labels, and so on, it generates at runtime elements under the A-frame framework. So if someone would like to download and back up the code that has been generated, you can save and download. And this is the code under this exhibition. You can save it, keep it for your records as a text file, and then you can keep versions on your own. Let me go back. And you can then load the exhibition through this section here. So basically, in case I have made changes, I can upload the exhibition that I've downloaded, or even delete the exhibition and set the whole thing back to the defaults in case I want to start again, in case I made any mistakes. Okay, so if I go back to the VR editor, I can see the latest version will be loaded. Okay, this is pretty much it. I don't know if you have tested it, if you have any questions. Before I conclude, I just would like to add one more thing, and then I will leave it on you to test it, and I will be available for any questions. And one last nice feature this tool has relates to the associated material called Sketchpad. Basically, this also, with regards to this feature, we also made various iterations, previous version that has been improved. Basically, the idea of the Sketchpad is that given a specific artwork, main artwork, we can add associated material around that artwork. Now, this was a challenge again, from an interaction design point of view. Let's say I would like to add associated material to the 3D sculpture here. Okay, the Aphrodite. Add a 2D around that artwork. Now, how to do that? I go to the artworks. I need to select, I'm about to assign an artwork, but I will not assign it as a main artwork. I will assign it as an associated material. So I need to enable this and select the artwork that I would like the artwork to be bound to. I'm assigning this artwork, for example, which is a metadata artwork now. This has a different type, and I can adjust it. If I go here, I can go to the 2D artwork, which is a meta artwork. I can scale it down. Position it where I want. And now this is considered an associated material. Now, how is this? Can this be useful? While I'm in a visitor mode, these artworks, these associated material will be disabled. And if I want to expand and see more information about that artwork, I click on the artwork, and this will enable and disable these artworks. For example, for editing purposes, for testing, we have a toggle all associated material, basically in which we can enable, disable quickly. These are any associated material, but we also have the visitor mode in which we can basically get into the role of a visitor by clicking on this. I can enable, disable the artworks. Let me add one more associated material. Click on this. This is associated metadata. Adjustments. I can add information here. I'm saving the exhibition. Now I can go to the editor and see how a viewer would see the information that I've added. This is my room. This is the wall I created. And as you can see, the associated material is disabled, but I can enable, disable this associated material. And you can, the nice thing is that you can also see what I've just created in your browser. You just go, you can go to the view VR exhibitions as a guest, click on this in the login page, and you will be able to see the last one, VR for LTTA3 Salzburg, view exhibition, and you will be able to see what I've just created. So this is pretty much it. Do you have any questions? Yes, Dimitris, I saw your comments. In order to see the artwork in your editor, you need to go to the curatorial and assign it. Select it first. This was an addition we did in the proof of concept 3, so that we bound the curatorial process with the exhibition creation. You need to go to the curatorial, select the artwork, and then it will be available. In the meantime, let me see if there are any other features that are worth mentioning. I can see, okay, this is related to the VR exhibition. Let me show you one more thing that is related to the augmented reality exhibition. This is a different editing tool now. There are many other tools as well, but I will show you some interesting things here. Now, with regards to the augmented reality exhibition, I've not been assigned right now by my instructor, but this is a previous assignment that happened in September. So basically, beyond VR exhibitions, I can also create augmented reality exhibitions. I get into the AR editor, and here I can select the artworks that I would like to bind within the AR gallery, the AR exhibition. But beyond that, so I can do that by selecting and deselecting the artworks in my artwork manager. But I can also pin to a specific location the artwork, in which Google Maps opens up. I pin, the longitude, latitude is selected, and I can either apply the location and make any other changes. In case I would like to move this pin, I'm not moving it. I just click on a different pin and I apply it again. I save it, or I can apply and close it. Now, this specific artwork is bound to a specific latitude, longitude. And the next thing that how this takes effect is that the AR mobile application that has been implemented by our partners from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki retrieves these artworks along with this metadata location-related information and positions the artworks that are in close proximity to the visitor that is using the Android application, and shows them, augments them on the user's mobile phone. Very good. Any questions? So this is pretty much it from my side. I'm happy to answer any questions, receive feedback, how you find this technology.
Well, Mari, I think that we can ask all the participants to interact with the platform and act as a help desk
Yes.
if anybody wants to ask something till a quarter uh, 12, I think. We have something like 45 minutes to play with the platform.
Yes, I think it's good to use this time. Anyone who is interested
Yeah.
to create an account, then we will be here for any help, clarification questions. All right, thank you. So I will be here. Anyone who needs help, please let me know.
Hello again.
Hello.
The training activity slot has been ended, and now we can proceed to the next topic in our agenda that concerns discussions, exchanging experiences, challenges, and whatever on the presented materials in this LTTA event. This is the last topic of our event. Do you want to discuss anything you have heard these 3 days of our event? As a general comment, I can say that we have presented all the progress we have done during these 3 years. We discussed in depth technology stack. We heard inspiring presentations about how we can associate our repository to other online platforms like RC, or even how we can incorporate the principles of open science today. Also, we had training on the basic tools developed within CRIMS framework, VR editor, AR. We saw how we can use mixed reality native application and things like that. Are there any questions? What is your feeling about the work? I believe that we have overpassed what is said about pilot studies. We are beyond pilot. Our framework is more than that. Of course, it is not a commercial product, but I think that we have done a good job. And now wrapping up, I can say that we should, let's say, revise our materials, tutorials, videos, and so on in order to disseminate all the work that has been done here in the most efficient way. This is the whole issue, because at the end, we should deliver a course with its theory and the tools with which somebody can conduct laboratory exercises and so on. And of course, we want the feeling of our stakeholders, the School of Fine Arts, all the schools, because these are our users. If they are happy, yes, the stage is yours. Yes, Panagiotis.
Yes, thank you very much for the excellent presentations and this wrap up of the discussions that have been taking place these days. I would like just to add that from our experience at the schools of fine arts, I think it would be very useful, if not necessary, to add an element that could guide newcomers to these applications, people who do not necessarily have an active cooperation with, if you like, a tutor who is well versed in the system and so forth, in order to increase intuitiveness. To cut a long story short, when I was presenting, especially the VR application, I used very frequently PowerPoint presentations so that 3 or 4 specifically identified obstacles that could confuse them would be clear to them so they can make the most out of the applications. I think these 3 or 4 slightly complicated issues, for example, the fact that they have to go through the curatorial process in order to add artworks, the fact that they have to be relatively close to a wall so that they can choose this wall in order to insert an artwork. These are things that they need to know, otherwise they might be sort of disengaged, discouraged, and because the new comers to the application will not have, if you like, a tutor who's going to be presenting PowerPoint presentations to them. I think it would be useful to have something like a very brief resource, a clickable sort of thing, like frequent questions sort of PDF that could, if you like, answer 3 or 4 key questions, like, okay, how do I insert articles? Because manuals have tens of pages, they might be, you know, like off-putting. So it might be an interesting feature. Thank you.
Thank you, Panagiotis. Actually, I have already discussed that with Dr. Belk in order to make it more clear, let's say. If a teacher wants just to assess the whole work of his student at the end of this process without using the curatorial approach, then the student should allocate his artworks without using the curatorial steps, let's say. But I think that this will be done at the final release
That will be useful.
of the application. Yes.
That would be useful.
Or whatever frequently asked questions folder, of course, would be very useful for us. Maybe you, as the leader of the summative evaluation, I'm sure that you have concentrated such questions. Maybe you can provide it to us and prepare some relative answers and use it as our fund. Another concern, another issue. And then you, Ayodele, can you add something?
I think my question would have been on, so what next for CRIMS after getting to this point? And just to know, to be able to also think ahead and know how to plug in opportunities to do things that might be useful to the project in the context of whatever it is that might be happening in the academy. Yeah, just to have an idea of, so after this ending, what's the new beginning to expect, and how else we could connect to the trajectory, the future trajectory of the project.
Maybe an association with the RC, the open platform you already use, would be a good one. For example, for the tutorials, maybe the tutorials would be constructed through RC. Maybe.
Yes, possibly. Or yes, possibly, like we clearly saw from the presentation yesterday, that's a possibility. Or if there'll be further development at the CRIMS end of things, and some integration is being planned, yes, it could be interesting to see how that could work out. From the kit end of things, we could give some insights on what we think could be interesting, just from the fact that we've been using RC for a while and we have a little bit of an idea of how things work in print. So yes, there's the potential there for us to contribute in that sense.
Thank you, thank you. Any other comment? Beside partners, staff members, any other participant wants to make a comment? Okay, then Marie, you can have the last word today. Do you want to add something?
I don't have anything to add. I just would like to thank you, Dimitris, and your team, and all the partners of CRIMS for all your contributions. Dimitri, for the for organizing the event. I think it was a very interesting 3-day event with nice talks. The invited talks were very nice as well. So yeah, I think it was, we have produced knowledge, we shared knowledge, and also I see it's also good to reflect these events. Through these events, I also reflect and see what the work that has been done, and I'm very happy about the outcomes. So yeah, I don't have anything to add. Thank you very much again for hosting and for the coordination throughout the 3 years and the nice collaboration we had.
Thank you very much, Maria. Concluding this nice event, I can say that I enjoyed all the presentations. I think that we have disseminated the knowledge we produced within these 3 years. And of course, we are looking forward to hearing you at the end of this week during the multiplier event we have programmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
Take care. Bye.